Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Hua Chunying claims that Beijing expects a smooth transfer of power and believes crime and terrorism will be contained. She stated, quote, "China has maintained contact and communication with the Afghan Taliban and played a constructive role in promoting the political settlement of the Afghan issue." On July 28th, State Councilor and Foreign Minister Wang Yi met with the visiting delegation led by head of the Afghan Taliban Political Committee, Mullah Abdul Ghani Baradar in Tianjin. She adds, quote, "The Afghan Taliban said on multiple occasions that it hopes to grow sound relations with China, looks forward to China's participation in Afghanistan's reconstruction and development, and will never allow any force to use the Afghan territory to engage in acts detrimental to China. We welcome those statements," end quote. The other country who also kept their embassy in Kabul open, Russia. Though Russia does plan to move some of its personnel. So clearly China and Russia are cozying up to the Taliban. So where does that leave the rest of the world? That leaves the world more vulnerable to terrorist attacks, threatened by a strengthened communist China, and in a position of weakness as these countries ally with one another. If the rest of the world does not wake up and realize the great threat these countries pose to the rest of the world, we are in deep trouble. Whenever there's a collapse within a country, a void is created. The question isn't whether or not that void will be filled, but by whom. This is exactly what happened in Iran. When the rug was pulled out from under the Shah of Iran, you got an Islamic fundamentalist regime for the first time in control of a major country, introducing to the world the idea of death to America and martyrdom in connection with that. We, of course, suffer from this to this day. Similarly, in Afghanistan, those who provided the staging ground of 9/11 are now more empowered than ever. Even though they were pushed out for 20 years, they've come back even stronger and defeating the greatest superpower in the world, namely America. Think of what that does for their ego. They're not giving up anytime soon. That was clear when they were wearing U.S. Army garb and staging photos as if they were heroes. This reminds me of Neville Chamberlain's actions prior to World War II. He left his meeting with Hitler, glad to have given him the Sudetenland, thinking the conflict was now solved, and not upsetting Hitler was the best solution. Well, as we all know, he couldn't have been more wrong. He did the exact opposite of what he should have done. Never assume that a sleeping giant or a giant on the move in conquest won't strike you. Neville Chamberlain's approach to Hitler is exactly Biden's approach to communist China today. Both men gave way to wishful thinking, to cowardice, and to outright denial of reality. Both could see what was happening, yet chose to ignore it. Biden came in promising calm leadership. Some people voted for him thinking Trump was too erratic and thought from Biden they would get a steady hand. Biden said he would lead in a quiet way, a unifying way. But the reality is his decisions have been far more reckless than Trump's. Not only has he not unified the country, but he has exacerbated division and wreaked havoc on the world. But even if you're a hardcore progressive Democrat, he hasn't delivered for you either. He can't deliver the infrastructure bill they want, and so on. He can't convince those who are reluctant to go along with him. So we're experiencing a real crisis of leadership. Some thought that it wouldn't be Biden accomplishing things, but his dream team. Some voted for Biden because they thought he would have a brain trust, like FDR did. So even if Biden isn't the expert on a given topic, there are competent people guiding the canoe. But Biden's advisors seem to be as incompetent as he is. Look at General Milley, completely erratic and out of control. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan doesn't seem to have handled a crisis before. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken looks more comfortable playing golf than discussing the Taliban. Some believe that Biden isn't going to remain at the helm very long, and the presidency will move to Kamala Harris. However, there's no indication that she will be much different than Biden. She has been unusually inactive during her time in office this year and has been disappointing. Ultimately, leaders are judged by what they accomplish. Trump got a lot done. Biden is getting a lot done too, but it's not good.